Hey guys, Michal Hucko here and welcome to another lecture of our REST API class or Django REST API class. In this lecture, we're going to talk about foreign keys. I'm going to show you how you can create a relation between the teacher table and the subject table. Of course, we're going to rewrite the subject table because that was your homework. I hope you did it. If you did so, please just check out with me and fill the parts which are missing in your project. Today I will also show you something which is called like a GUI or graphical user interface inside the REST Django REST framework. Because if you will be working with this in some company, it's more likely or most likely that the other colleagues will be using it. So I don't want you to be surprised when you will join and stuff like this. So I will show you this at the end of this video. So let's start. Right now I'm inside my Visual Studio Code in the models.py. And the first thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some new fields into this subject because that's the table or the model which we're going to adjust. Of course, I will create here another field or another column which will be called created because as I said, this is a best practice to have a created add column which will specify when the given row was created, and right now this one is being set to auto now at true. The next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something which is called foreign key. So I hope you have some background in the SQL because I highly recommend you first go through some SQL stuff before moving on with this tutorial. But let me just very briefly explain what is a foreign key. Sometimes you want to create the relation between tables in the relational database, let's say SQL, MySQL, or PostgreSQL. In this case, it's PostgreSQL. And we specify the relation between two tables with the foreign keys. Of course, there are many ways how you can specify this, but foreign key is a relation which specifies that for that one particular table, in this case subject, there is one row, which is connected with one row of the subject, meaning that one subject or every subject must have only one teacher, or at least, well, there is just one teacher for one subject. And this is something which we will express with the tool which is called the foreign key. And we can create the foreign key with the help of models or Django models. It does nothing to do with just REST, okay? Django REST framework. It is also in the Django stuff and stuff like this. So we're gonna create a teacher column, and this will be of type foreign key. And this foreign key needs to refer to another table because as you can see here in the specification, there is a to field. The first field is to, which needs to be a type of model. So foreign key needs to refer to another table. And as I said, every subject needs to have at least one or just one teacher. There cannot be subjects without teachers. So there is this relationship, there is this relation between subject and teacher. Next, there are two more fields which I'm going to specify. The first field, which will be used later, is called related name. And this related name will help us when we want to refer from object of type teacher to the all belonging subjects later in the code. So really, this just helps us with ORM, because with the ORM, as I showed you, sometimes you want to refer to the belonging columns, and you can also refer to a relationship, to this kind of foreign key relationship through the related name field. In this case, it will be subjects. So whenever you would like to list subjects belonging to a teacher, you will just access the field which will be called subjects, okay? And the next thing which you always need to specify is this onDelete action. And this onDelete action, I will explain it like this. It's just explaining or it's clarifying what should happen when the teacher will be deleted from the database. So imagine you have a school and there are these subjects, let's say mathematics. And what should happen when the mathematics teacher teaching this subject is gone, like it's leaving the school? Yeah, what should happen then? Should be the subject also deleted? Yeah, that's what we will do. This effect is called cascade. So every related field, when the parent field will be deleted also. So we're gonna specify this with these models, cascade constant. Yeah, cascade constant. And this cascade constant will ensure that every time we delete this teacher belonging to the subject will be also deleted. Yeah, and of course, let's add also the meta class here, so we have this ordering for free. Yeah, because that's something what we like. Now, before we move on, let's look here. Here we have something problematic. The Visual Studio Code is saying teacher is not defined. And that's the problem of Python, because we are specifying the teacher after the specification of the subject. So what I recommend you to do is really just move this subject specification behind teacher, and you get rid of this error or this warning message, right? But it should work. Perfect. So now we solved the problem. Now, because I said we also gonna rewrite the subject in the serialized manner as I did in the previous lecture. I hope you finished your homework. So let's just go to the serializers.py and create another serializer, which will be called subject serializer. Sorry, subject serializer. So I put here subject, it's a serializer, and it goes for subject, fine. And I go also to the views, where I will just comment out all the old views specification, and I will create another model view set for the subject. I will call it subject view set, and the serializer will be a subject serializer. And the objects will go from models.subject.objects.all. And the last thing what we need to do is get rid of these old URLs, which are referring to the old views. And I will just register a new router to the new route to the default router, which will be called subjects, and will refer to the subject view set. Okay. Now, before I run this, we need to think about what is the problem right now. So what will be the next step? From the previous lectures, you know, if you want to change something in models, you need to create a new migration. Okay, so now most of you will be like, okay, Michal, let's run the Python manage.py make migration school app, right? But there is a problem. Python or Django will be confused. Right now, we added 2 fields or 2 columns, which are mandatory, because as I said, if we don't specify something else, out of the box, the new fields will be required. So the Django REST framework will be expecting them inside the database. But previously, we created some subjects without these fields, okay? So the Django REST framework, or Django in general, will be confused. Okay, Michal, so you specified some fields which are mandatory, but you didn't specify any default values. And the Django REST framework will be greeting us with some questions. Let's look at it. So I go like Python, manage.py, make migrations, and the name of the app in this it's school app. And when I run this command, you will see the Django will be asking us, okay, there is a new created field and it's mandatory, but you didn't specify the default value. What should be default value? You can see it's written here, right? And you can either specify the default value, or you can just quit this process, this make migration. You will just pause it and you will fix it on your side. And now, because I don't really know what were the subjects which you created, or if you were playing around, I will show you now one anti-pattern, which can be only applied before you went to production and you don't have any production data. You shouldn't do this with the production database, or you shouldn't do this if you are working in a big team. But because we are learning new things, this is absolutely okay to do if you are just playing around. So I will just stop this, writing here the option 2. And we will just right now delete or discard the database which we already have, and discard all the migrations and create new migrations from the scratch. So Python or Django will not notice any changes, and it will not ask us for some default values, because Django will be thinking we are like creating the tables and the database for the very first time. But really, if you are working in a team, think about it. The biggest problem with this is with this teacher field. Imagine you have some subjects already in the database which doesn't have the teacher, right, specified in this foreign key field. And now you create this foreign key saying this is mandatory. There cannot be a subject without the teacher assigned, right? So those subjects from the history will have problem, right? If you don't specify the default value. And what should be the default value if you never created a teacher before? And this is a problematic. Oh, of course, there are some ways you can, for example, create one teacher, which will be like a part-time teacher, which is not even existing person. It's just a virtual teacher, and you will assign all the old subjects this virtual teacher, and then you will manually change these as you are like adding new teachers later to the database, right? That's one way. Or you can just give up on this rule that every subject needs to have a teacher, and you can say, of course, there can be subjects without a teacher where the teacher will be just null, and later you will just add the teachers. So it's up to you, but this can get quite complicated, and it really depends what you have in the database. So I decided, okay, I will stick with a simple solution, and what I will do, I will just delete every like content of these migrations, and I will also go to this PostgreSQL, and what I will do, I will just delete this school database absolutely, like completely. Yeah, now the database is gone, and I will create a new database, which I will call the same school Yeah, it's important that there is a Postgre user because I'm using the Postgre user in the settings.py of that particular project. And now if I go back, the thing which I need to do is again run the make migrations. And because right now Django is thinking we are creating the migrations for the very first time, it will not be confused, right? You can see it just created the first migration where the tables will be created for us. Perfect. Now, the next thing what we need to do, of course, before doing anything else is Python manage.py migrate, which will create the tables for the newly created database because the database is empty. It's not remembering anything. I just discarded it from the scratch. But one thing before we move, which we're gonna adjust in our project, is right now we're gonna enable this graphical user interface of the REST API framework, which I mentioned previously, because I would like to show you how it works. So you go to the school project. Meanwhile, this migration is finished. So if like I go here and I log inside the school, right? And I go into the schemas, into the tables. And if I click, for example, on the subject part and on the columns part, you will see that this teacher ID, if I click here, is specified as a foreign key, which is referring to the school app, blah, 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 teacher table. Now, perfect. Going back to the project. So if I go to the project, to the settings.py, so school project / settings.py. And if I scroll down to the installed apps, right now I didn't add the REST framework to the installed apps, but I would like to use this graphical user interface just to demonstrate you how it works. So I will just go here and I will put here REST_framework, right? You can think of it like we installed it in the previous lecture when I specified the pip install REST Django REST API, right? Sorry, Django REST framework, right? It was enabled since then, but I didn't put it into installed apps because I wasn't using any like app functionality of that framework. I was just using the serializers and the model view sets and stuff like this. But you can also use this framework in your application, and right now you will see how it works. But before that, let's evaluate our new models. So let's go to Python, manage.py, run server. This will run the server, and again, I have prepared here our beautiful postman, like it's a couple of seconds until it will trigger, but don't forget that I'm using the same endpoints as I was using previously with the old specification of the views, right? They are working also with these new model view sets. And right now the server is running, so if I go here and let's just evaluate. What happened if I query the subjects? Look at this, I'm localhost school subjects. There are no subjects. If I go to a specific subject, let's say subject 1, there is no subject because I didn't create any of these subjects. If I want to create a subject, I need to assign a teacher, right? You remember, we put there the foreign key, which is required. So before we move to a creation of the subject, we need to create some teachers. Right now, there are no teachers, right? So I will create the first teacher with my name. I'm an engineer. And if I send this, you will see I have no problems. Before I move, the important part here, because we are using these model view sets, it's important, and URLs in the default router. You need to specify here the backslash. If you want, sorry, it's a slash, front slash. I'm always confusing these two terms. So you need to specify here this slash. Without the slash, if you want to create some new teacher, you will see a problem, an error. This will return this 500 internal server error. And if you go to the server, you will see that it's saying you called this URL via post, but the URL doesn't end in the slash, and you have append slash set, right? So this is important. You cannot create something with this model view set without the slash. So you need to put here slash, and if I create here now, there will be a second teacher created. If I go to teachers, I put here the get request, and there are two teachers, right? And right now, if I go to subjects, there is a no subject, and I can create a new subject, let's say chemistry, where I assigned teacher with ID 1. So I'm referring to the teacher through a foreign key through the IDs of the teacher which I created, right? So I need to have some teachers in order to create the subject. And right now you can see that the subject was created, the teacher has been assigned. And if I go to subject and press send, you will see that the chemistry is being created here. Amazing, how cool is that? Now let's look at the cascade, which I specified. So what will happen if I delete the teacher, which is assigned to a specific subject? Because we specified the cascade, both of these like rows will be deleted. So I will delete the teacher 1. Again, the backslash needs to be here, okay? Which I assign to that particular subject. If I run this, I got 204, no content. If I go back to teachers, Right now there is just one teacher, the second one which I created. And if I go back to subjects and query how many subjects do I have, it will be empty because that subject with the teacher which was deleted also, right? Just to clear everything out, I will delete also this second teacher which I created. So right now there will be no teachers. Perfect, so I just demonstrate how the foreign key works. But the one last thing which I would like to show in today's video is that GUI, which we were talking about. So how to access this GUI? You can access it through a URL, localhost, HTTP, right? /school. Why school? Because that's the application which we are using. So if I go here and I will go to the localhost, to a new window, and I run this, I will be greeted with this beautiful GUI. I don't like this GUI, to be honest. It has a limited functionality and I really prefer working with the Postman. And the one advantage of using Postman is, if you later will change the language, for example, you will be implementing something in a Golang or Java, you will not have this GUI. This GUI is just for Django REST framework, right? And you will be confused. That's the reason why I prefer Postman over this. But of course, this GUI can be handy and it's like really helpful. For example, look at the same process from this GUI. We will create a teacher and then we will assign this teacher to a subject. So first we need to create the teachers. And the endpoint for teachers is at this URL. You have specified it here. You can click on it, right? And when you click here, you will see that right now there is nothing. And this GUI provides you here this beautiful form where you can film the fields. Like you will create me, like Mishko, right? It's a special name in Slovakia, like this. And I'm an engineer, so I put here an ing and I run post. And right now I created a new teacher. As you can see, it's here. The 3 is here because it's an auto increment field and the database is giving some arbitrary number here. So right now, if I go back and I want to create a subject, I will say I am creating a chemistry again, with the abbreviation of chem or CM, whatever. And here you have a drop down of teachers. So this Django REST GUI will automatically query the database and list all the available teachers here. How cool is that? That's the reason why this GUI can be sometimes handy if you are like a new one. But you can every time send the raw JSON if you click on this raw data part, right? And send here an application JSON, but some people prefer this. So if I click here, right now it will create the new in this case, subject. And of course, you can access the specific subject through the URL of this subject, and then you can run the put request from inside here. I want to change this to chemistry like 2, right? I will run the put, and now it's chemistry 2. And if you want, you can delete it from this GUI, and it works like this, like magic from here. So please try to play around this. And in the next lecture, we're gonna create a students table. Feel free to do it in advance before the next lecture. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. My name is Michal Hucko. Thank you very much for watching. I hope I will see you in the next lecture.